Latin American logistics goes digital. My guest is Alfonso de los Rios, CEO and co-founder of Nowports. Hello, Alfonso.
Hey, Robert. Thanks for inviting me, for hosting us
Thank
in
you
this
for
space.
being here. I appreciate it. We're going to be talking about digital logistics in Latin America, but real quickly, could we define that term? I mean, what do we mean when we say digital logistics?
Yeah, Robert, I think when we talk about being digital, it's mostly around bringing transparency more than digitization to an industry, right? Latin America, it's a region where logistics have been like kind of a gray zone where you don't know where are your containers. You need to send like a lot of emails or phone numbers in order to get like some order status. And I think bringing digitization is just decentralizing all of that information and putting available at your fingertips on a web browser.
Okay, so visibility and the free flow of information in a digital mode is really what we're talking about here.
Yes.
Right. So in Latin America, as you say, you believe it's been a little bit behind the times in the use of manual processes, which slows things down more so than other regions of the world.
Totally. And I think, Robert, when you think about like just manual procedures, the problem of those manual procedures is that you can have a lot of issues or errors while you fill different documents, different emails and information that you need to provide internally for your company. And digitization can help to automate most of the manual reports you do to bring transparency not only to you, but for the whole company, etc. Right?
So let's talk more about how digitization can actually impact and improve the region. I mean, you just mentioned one way. I mean, what changes could we expect to see in logistics in Latin America in an environment that goes fully digital?
Being fully digital in Latin America definitely will bring like different advantages that can help an emerging economy such as like this region. And it will come mainly, Robert, in my opinion, by just like filling those gaps where because you don't have that visibility, you cannot improve. So the part of continuous improvement because of digitization will be something that we see more often. And besides continuous improvement, it's just like ownership on decision making, right? When you talk about like who is in charge of sending X documents, who is in charge of keeping you updated, etc., digitization will be like that part where you just become like the operative system and you just bring visibility to all the parties involved, from the carrier to the trucking companies to the importer, the freight forwarder, etc.
So would it be fair to say that right now the situation is that we have a lot of information silos walled off from one another and the inability of them to communicate in an efficient manner?
Yes, I agree 100% with that, Robert.
Yeah, those silos, they exist within organizations as well as across organizations. I mean, that's not a problem that's exclusive to Latin America by any means, but that is a situation.
I think it's something industry-wise, right? Like you see it on every single region in the world where like the freight forwarder has some pain like connecting the importer, the carrier, etc. But digitization, as I said, like it will bring, Robert, like it will just increase the impact of every single party. So like we just can focus doing the strategic work and automate most of the reports, manual procedures, etc. Right?
Where in the region do you see the most progress right now toward this goal?
I would say possibly it's in Mexico and Chile, mainly driven because we opened there for almost 3 years now, right? So right now we already operate in more than 7 countries in Latin America, but definitely like Mexico and Chile are our biggest countries yet.
There are all kinds of logistical issues in Latin America. I mean, physical logistical issues, which are not necessarily solvable through digitization, but are there ways in which it can actually help cross borders within Latin America as well? I mean, is there communication and cooperation with border and with customs authorities of the various countries that can help smooth this whole process?
For sure. I think the pandemic, Robert, on a certain way, made like governments and public entities notice that they needed to change the way things were working in terms of digitization, right? And bringing more digitization in order to like be able to handle that remotely, right? Like from home, because people was not at their offices, etc. So when we talk about government corporations, we try to adapt to every single regulation in the region, all the way from Mexico down to Brazil. And we adapt and connect to their terminals, to the customs clearance process, etc.
On the other hand, is there in parts, if not all of the region, kind of a lack of sensitivity or acceptance of this technology? Is that a challenge anywhere? And if so, how is that overcome?
Well, I think logistics are global, Robert, and at a certain point, when you talk about just other emerging countries where we just opened a few months ago, like Panama, Peru, etc., they have really similar issues to what we have in Mexico, in Chile, Colombia, Uruguay, etc. And I would say that everyone has the same urgency of changing this industry. It's obvious, and it's a little bit important to mention that in some countries, because of lack of infrastructure or lack of resources to digitize an industry, we're going slower than what we should, or that what we would love to go, right?
Do you see an acceptance on the part of private companies to make the necessary investments? Because there is a certain amount of cost involved here in making this switch.
Totally. I think big companies and like medium and big enterprises across Latin America only understand or need to do this effort in order to invest in their supply chain and logistics procedures. And Nowports is becoming that part of frictionless onboarding inside of our software, where we like become your operating system for supply chain and logistics procedures. So what I want to say there is, I think like during the pandemic, Robert, company like really, it wasn't an option to digitize or not. They needed to do it in order to survive because they were not working from office, etc.
Well, like everywhere, and like with people and companies everywhere, it takes a crisis sometimes to get people to move ahead, doesn't it?
I think the pandemic was on a big part that crisis that changed logistics forever in Latin America.
What would you expect in the way? I know this is very difficult to predict, and of course, it's going to vary from country to country, but what would you expect to see in terms of a timetable of a really broad digitization of logistics throughout Latin America? When will that happen?
It's a good question. I think in terms of like 3 to 5 years, Robert, digitization will become a commodity in most of the emerging markets, such as Latin America, Africa, etc., in the world, Southeast Asia, etc. So I would say 3 to 5 years to digitize like the complete importing and exporting process in Latin America, right? That will require effort, will require significant investment, but definitely I think we will see that in the near future.
3 to 5 years comes pretty quick. It doesn't, it sounds like a long time.
I know, and if you asked me that before the pandemic, Robert, it was like possibly more than 10 to 15 years. But definitely the pandemic helped companies to like start digitizing and decentralizing all the information related to their shipments.
Yeah, well, that's going to be great to see. Alfonso de los Rios of Nowports, thanks very much for painting a picture for us of digitization of logistics in Latin America, where it is and where it's going. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert, for hosting me.